Listen, you can read all the books, watch all the videos, and tell yourself 1,000 times that you love yourself. But if you don't, understand this, the love you seek will always be out of reach today. I am not giving you a theory, but the key that no one has told you that Carl Jung discovered, and that will forever change how you see yourself and others are. You are ready to discover it when you are here. You will feel deep inside that there is more. It is not just about accepting your shadows or balancing your energies. It is about integrating these concepts into your life in a practical way that really makes a difference. And that is exactly what you will experience today. At the end of this video, you will not only have a deeper insight why you have struggled to feel loved. You will also have a clear and actionable strategy to fundamentally change your relationship with yourself and therefore with others. This is not theory, it's action. So subscribe so you don't miss out and stay tuned until the end, because today you will discover something profound. Now let's get started. Your relationships are not a coincidence. What attracts or repels you in others is a mirror of what you have not yet resolved in yourself. Think of the last person who triggered strong emotions in you, be it love or frustration. This person is more than just someone who happened to come into your life. Maybe you are attracted to people who make you feel insecure, or you are annoyed by them of insecurity, or you are annoyed by people who show qualities you don't accept in yourself today. You will learn to use this mirror to find out which parts of your inner self are calling for attention and healing, because as long as you don't do that, you will continue to look for love in the wrong places. The right question is not, why is this person behaving this way, but what is this person showing me? This person behaves this way, but what does this person show me about myself? This mirror law in relationships is more profound than it seems at first glance. If a person triggers a strong emotion in you, then you are experiencing a projection of your own shadow. Pay attention to recurring patterns in your relationships. Are you always drawn to people with similar characteristics, or do you constantly avoid certain types of people? Both are signs that tell you something about your inner self, the feelings you have towards others, be it strong attraction or intense rejection, are two sides of the same coin. Both reveal something about your inner self. Even if someone irresistibly attracts you, ask yourself, what qualities do I admire about? Maybe these are qualities that you don't live out or have developed yourself. Maybe you are fascinated by the spontaneity of a person because you lead a very controlled and structured life yourself. It is the same with rejection. What exactly bothers me about this person? It could be that you have the same character trait, but suppress it, or don't want to realize it. Maybe you are annoyed by someone else's arrogance because you sometimes struggle with a sense of emptiness that you don't want to admit to yourself. This self-awareness is powerful, but it requires absolute honesty with yourself. Be willing to see the sides of yourself that you keep hidden from yourself. But it is in this realization that true healing begins. The people who challenge you the most are often your own self. Challenge you the most are often your best teachers. The person who upsets you the most might be the one who shows you which deep inner wounds are still unresolved. These encounters are no coincidence. They are like signposts for your own inner development. These people are karmic mirrors that show you unconscious parts of yourself. As long as you do not recognize this, you will keep attracting similar relationships until you learn the lesson. Remember, just as others mirror you, so do you. Their reactions to you are often an expression of their own inner conflicts. When you understand this, you can respond with more compassion and serenity rather than going on defense or attack. This awareness changes not only your relationships, but also your whole life. When you realize that the outer world is only a reflection of your inner state, real transformation begins, and this transformation begins with you. The real purpose of this work is not just to recognize patterns, but to transform them. When you understand what part of yourself is reflected in a problematic relationship, you can begin to heal this aspect by consciously integrating the repressed or undeveloped parts. Your relationships will then change naturally. This integration process happens gradually. Do not expect immediate results. Look at your reactions like a curious scientist without judgment, but with genuine interest over time. You will realize that people who used to trigger strong emotions in you no longer have the same power over you, the healthiest and most balanced. Relationships will emerge when you have done this inner work. You will start to attract people into your life who reflect your integrated and healed parts. Instead of your wounds, you will no longer look for what you lack in others. What you yourself lack, but create connections that happen on shared abundance. True love is only possible after this journey of self-knowledge. When you love out of wholeness and not out of lack, your relationships become clear. Mutual growth, instead of being characterized by emotional dependency, you no longer need anyone to fill your inner gaps. You are complete in yourself. The part of you that you reject is the one that sabotages your relationships. You can't truly love if you don't accept everything about yourself. Think about the things you don't like about yourself that you hide from others. This is your shadow, and as long as you don't integrate it, you will continue to project your insecurities onto others. If, e.g., arrogance in others bothers you, for example, if arrogance in others bothers you, there may be a part of you that is afraid of being perceived as arrogant. Or if you are attracted to people who make you feel small, it could be because you don't feel big enough inside yourself. It also encompasses your undiscovered gift and talent. When you reject parts of yourself, you fragment your being and create an invisible barrier that prevents the deep connection you long for. This fragmentation leads you to seek in others what you cannot accept in yourself. Every time you judge someone harshly, you stand in front of a mirror. The trait that bothers you so much about that person is a clue to something you do not accept in yourself. Something that you have not accepted in yourself. Observe your most intense reaction. Therein lie the most valuable clues. Perhaps you loathe the vulnerability of others because you fear your own fragility, or you criticize excessive ambition because you do not allow yourself to allow your own desires for success and recognition. Your shadow also shows up in your romantic attractions. We are often attracted to people who embody what we ourselves are attracted to, who embody what we repress ourselves. If you are irresistibly attracted to dominant personalities, ask yourself, is there a part of me that wants to express more power and authority? If you keep looking for partners who need to be rescued, you may be projecting your own desire for care and attention. Relationship sabotage happens subtly but continuously. Maybe you fear abandonment, so you withdraw before you can be abandoned. You withdraw before you can be abandoned, or you are afraid of being controlled and therefore reject any suggestion from your partner. Even if it is reasonable, these patterns are not accidental. They are defense mechanisms of your unintegrated shadow. Integrating the shadow requires courage. First, you must be willing to see it without judging yourself. Every time you feel a strong aversion to something in another person, ask yourself, where do I find this in myself? Not to blame you, but to get to know yourself more deeply. Integration also means expressing repressed aspects in a safe environment. If you have repressed your creativity, find spaces where you can express it freely. If you have denied your need for connection, allow yourself to be vulnerable with people you trust. Over time, these once rejected parts become sources of strength instead of unconsciously damaging your relationships. Strength instead of unconsciously sabotaging your relationships. A powerful exercise is to write a letter to your shadow, acknowledge its existence, thank it for what it has tried to give you, and let it know that you want to integrate it into your life with compassion. This inner dialogue can be the beginning of a deep reconciliation with yourself. The beauty of this process is the paradoxical truth. By accepting your dark sides, you become lighter. By accepting your incompleteness, you become brighter. By embracing your imperfections, you become more authentic. And it is this authenticity that opens the door to real connections. The deepest and most fulfilling relationships happen when two people meet in their wholeness, with light and shadow that are no longer repressed but integrated. You no longer need anyone to complete you because you are already whole. You no longer project your fears and insecurities onto your partner, but have accepted them as part of you. Your partner but have accepted them as part of you, your relationships are not just there to make you feel good, they are there to make you grow. Every conflict, every action, every disappointment is an opportunity to understand yourself better in this process. You will learn to see love not as a goal, but as a path of self-knowledge. Because as long as you don't understand this, you will keep repeating the same mistakes when you end up in relationships over and over again. For example, if you keep ending up in relationships where you feel abandoned, it is because there is an old abandonment wound inside you that needs to be healed. Or if you keep looking for partners who make you feel secure, it is because there is a part of you that feels deeply insecure here. You will learn to use love as a tool for growth, not as an unattainable illusion that frustrates you. If we only see love as a source of happiness and comfort, we miss out on its deeper transformative power. Relationships are life's most intense classroom of clarity, most intense classroom of life, the clearest mirror of our inner self. Every person who enters your life brings a specific lesson with them, and as long as you have not learned this lesson, the pattern will repeat itself with different faces, but the same essence. These patterns in your relationships are not coincidences. If you look at your love story, you will discover red threads connecting seemingly different experiences. Maybe you keep attracting emotionally distant people, or you regularly find yourself in relationships with people who need to be saved. These patterns are invitations to self-reflection, clues to inner wounds that call for recognition, attachment. Theory shows us that our first relationship experiences in childhood shape patterns that are repeated in adulthood. If you learned as a child that love is inconsistent, you will seek this inconsistency in your adult relationships, not because it is good for you, but because it is familiar to you. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to change. The true meaning of romantic love is not to make you happy, but to make you happy. Purpose of romantic love is not to make you happy, even though happiness can be a wonderful side effect. Its real purpose is to show you aspects of yourself that would otherwise remain hidden. It is in intimacy that your deepest fears, defense mechanisms, and unspoken desires come to light when a conflict with your partner arises. The most valuable question is not who is right, but what does this tell me about myself? Perhaps your exaggerated irritation at a harmless comment reveals a deep-rooted insecurity, perhaps behind your need for control is a deep-seated need for control. Perhaps behind your need for control is a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Such insights are treasures for anyone who truly wants to grow. Even your strongest attractions have a message. For you, we are often attracted to people who embody what we repress ourselves. If you deeply admire someone else's freedom, this could be an indication that you should allow yourself more freedom. If you are fascinated by someone's creativity, there may be an undiscovered artist within you who is seeking expression. Your most intense attractions are maps that lead you to your untapped potential. Disappointments in love, as painful as they may be, are extraordinary opportunities for growth. When a relationship ends, you have two choices: blame the other person and repeat the pattern, or look inward and ask yourself what you can learn from it. The way you respond will determine whether the experience makes you bitter or wiser, mature. Love does not look for perfection in the other, but for growth together, but for mutual growth. Two people care not only about their own happiness, but also about their mutual development in such a relationship. Every challenge is seen as an opportunity to expand inner boundaries and heal together. Paradoxically, this attitude leads to a deeper and more sustainable form of happiness. You are no longer dependent on perfect circumstances or an ideal partner. You find fulfillment in the process of your own development through the mirror. The other person offers you change begins when you stop repeating, "I always end up with the wrong partners," and instead ask, "Why do I keep choosing these partners?" This shift in perspective gives you back your power. You are no longer the victim of fate or the actions of others, but the conscious creator of your relationship experiences. Understanding love as a path to growth requires courage. You must be willing to recognize uncomfortable truths, question deeply rooted beliefs, and let go of identities that no longer serve you, but the reward is immensely more Authentic relationships, deeper self-knowledge, and the ability to love out of freedom, not neediness if you keep ending up in the same relationship dynamics. The answer lies in your subconscious. These patterns that seem to repeat themselves endlessly are not a coincidence, but indicators of inner wounds that need to be healed. If you are attracted to people who make you suffer, it is because an old emotional hurt is craving attention. Or if you are always looking for partners who uplift you, then there is a part of you that doesn't feel worthy enough today. You will learn to identify these patterns and break the cycle to create healthier and more conscious connections, because until you do this, you will continue to attract relationships that don't truly fulfill you. Toxic relationship patterns are like invisible cycles that repeat themselves with mathematical precision in your life. You change partners, but the dynamic remains the same. This is not a punishment of fate, and not a coincidence. It is the result of deep inner programming that controls your decisions from your subconscious without you realizing it. These imprints are usually created in childhood, when you learned what love means and how relationships work. If you grew up in an environment where love was about performance, you will probably unconsciously seek constant approval even as an adult. If affection was associated with criticism, you may only feel comfortable in relationships where there is a certain amount of conflict. The well-known statement, "the familiar is mistaken for safety," explains why we repeat harmful patterns. Your brain is programmed to seek the familiar, even if the familiar causes you pain. That's why many people leave a toxic relationship only to end up in a frighteningly similar situation. The first step to breaking these patterns is developing self-awareness. Look at your relationship history like a movie. What themes repeat themselves? Do you always end up feeling abandoned? Do you end up emotionally unavailable? Available people. You lose yourself in your relationships. These repetitions are not coincidences. They are clues to certain emotional wounds behind every toxic relationship. Pattern is a limiting belief. If you keep attracting people who cheat on you, this could indicate that you unconsciously believe you don't deserve loyalty. If you often feel controlled in relationships, there may be an unconscious belief behind it that you are not capable of directing your own life. This belief acts like invisible magnets that attract experiences that confirm them. Neuroscience shows us that these patterns are not only psychological in nature, but also neurologically anchored through constant repetition. You have created strong neural connections. Breaking these circuits requires continuous awareness and the conscious creation of new experiences that refute your habitual patterns. A powerful exercise is to identify your emotional triggers, those specific situations that cause excessive reactions. Perhaps a simple delay from your partner triggers a deep fear of abandonment, or a casual comment about your appearance triggers a deep-seated insecurity. These triggers are windows into your innermost wounds. Healing begins when you take responsibility for your patterns. This does not mean blaming yourself, but recognizing the role you play in creating and maintaining the victim of circumstance or the actions of others. You remain trapped in repetition. True change can only happen when you recognize your own responsibility to break these patterns. It is essential to reconnect with your body. Relationship addictions work similarly to other addictive mechanisms. There are physical signals that precede certain compulsive behaviors. Learn what the attraction to toxic patterns feels like in your body: an intense arousal, a false sense of security, a supposedly familiar safety. When you become aware of these sensations, you can stop reacting automatically and choose consciously instead. A crucial step is setting clear boundaries, both with others and with yourself. If you tend to lose yourself in relationships, develop rituals that maintain your connection to yourself. If you are attracted to narcissistic personalities, define exactly which behaviors you will no longer tolerate. Boundaries are acts of self-love that interrupt destructive patterns. True transformation happens when you dare to choose the new, even if it feels unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first. If you are used to drama and emotional intensity, a calm and stable relationship might seem boring at first. This initial irritation is normal. You are creating new neural connections, new ways to experience closeness and connection. Remember that breaking old patterns is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. There will be moments when you fall off the wagon, relapse where the old seduces you. Again, but each time you recognize the cycle and consciously choose a different path, you strengthen your new reality. Neuroplasticity works for you with each new conscious choice. You literally change the structure of your brain. The real goal is not perfection in relationships, but awareness that gives you the freedom to truly choose. Once you are no longer controlled by unconscious imprints, you can create relationships that reflect your present self, not the wounds of your past. Then you can love not out of lack or dependency, but out of wholeness and freedom. True love is not something you find, it is something you create when you love yourself. Unconditionally love no longer becomes something you seek, but something you are. This realization will change everything. Because until you understand this, you will be looking outside for something you can only find within yourself. Love is not something you give or receive. Love is something you are, and when you come out of this, love is not something you give or receive, it is something you are. And when you come out of this love, it is not something you give, but something you are, that you are. And when you live from this state, your relationships stop being a source of suffering and instead become an authentic expression of your inner being, because love is not a destination. It is a path. We have grown up with the idea that love is something that comes from the outside, a force that finds us if we are lucky. This romantic scene puts us in an attitude of passivity and dependence. We wait to be chosen, to be seen and loved, but this perspective fails to recognize the true nature of love. True love springs from within you like an inexhaustible source. It is not something you have to extract from another person. As long as you are dependent on external sources to experience love, you will remain trapped in a cycle of lack, like a cracked vessel. Nothing will ever completely fulfill you, because love that comes from the outside is always temporarily conditional and limited by the capacity of another person. True change begins when you realize that you yourself are the primary source of your love. You don't need permission to love yourself. You don't need to fulfill any conditions or accomplish anything. Self-love is not a reward for your perfection. It is your birthright, your natural state. When you break down the barriers you have erected against yourself, the practice of unconditional self-love becomes a revolutionary act in a world that has taught you to measure your worth by productivity. Look or success. It means honoring yourself as much. It means honoring yourself when you fail as much as when you triumph. It means speaking to yourself with the same compassion you would extend to a beloved friend. It means acknowledging your inner worth, independent of external validation. As you cultivate this loving relationship with yourself, the dynamics of your external relationships change. You no longer approach others out of a lack or an inner lesson, but out of abundance. You no longer look to others for what you lack, but generously share what you already have within you. Generously share what you already have within you. The beautiful irony is, once you stop desperately seeking love, you become able to experience it more deeply. Your relationships become spaces of growth, not accomplishment. You no longer seek someone to make you happy. You share the happiness you have cultivated bits. You don't expect someone to heal your wounds. Even if you can grow together, you are not dependent on others to make you feel valuable. Even if you appreciate their appreciation, this shift changes the nature of your attraction. When you act out of a sense of inadequacy, you are attracted to people who mirror your unresolved wounds. When you act out of inner wholeness, you attract people who resonate with your self-love. It is the difference between an attraction based on emotional dependence and an attraction that arises from deep alignment. True self-love is not unrelated to narcissism. It is the opposite of narcissism, stems from deep insecurity and inner lack that constantly needs to be compensated for by external validation. True self-love means recognizing and embracing your full humanity. It allows you to see others more clearly and with more compassion, because you are no longer unconsciously projecting your own unmet needs onto them. A transformative exercise is to consciously practice self-compassion when difficult emotions such as fear, sadness, anger, or shame arise, do not suppress or judge them. Meet them with acceptance. They are not flaws, instead. Meet them with acceptance. They are not mistakes to be corrected. But part of your human experience, this radical acceptance, changes not only your inner experience, but also your relationships with the outside world. Remember that love is not a final destination you will reach one day, but a daily practice there. Will be days when you find it hard to love yourself, when old patterns of self-criticism resurface. Don't let this discourage you. Every moment of mindfulness is an opportunity to choose love again. Every time you find your way back to yourself after a moment of self-alienation, you strengthen your capacity for authentic love, the greatest. Paradoxical truth is, as soon as you stop looking for love on the outside, you realize that it was always there, like a fish desperately searching for the ocean. While already swimming in it, you are surrounded by love. You just have to recognize it. Your task is not to find love, but to recognize it, to allow and express it first in relation to yourself, and then it will naturally be reflected in everything around you. This is the secret that mystics and sages have shared for centuries. Love is not something you do. It is who you are and when you live. From this truth, every relationship, every encounter, every moment becomes an expression of this deepest essence of your nature. Love is not a prize you have to earn through perfection. It is a state that arises when you fully accept yourself with all your light and shadow sides. No one will ever be able to love you the way you can love yourself. And that is the key when you understand that love is no longer a search, but a natural expression of who you are. If you want to continue learning how to transform your life from the inside out, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Remember, love is not something you find, it is something you create. And that path starts today. Thank you for joining me on this journey. See you in the next video. See you.